Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. I was thinking today, since my Eagles so mercilessly denied the Kansas City Chiefs their shot at NFL mortality with a three-peat, let's go back and take a look at 10 instances where I think a hard rock or metal band kind of had a three-peat of their own, released three all-time classic albums right in a row. So this is not a ranking video or anything. I just picked out 10 instances in my collection where I feel like a band released three all-time killer classic albums in a row. So the only order that this is in is the order that I pulled them off the shelf. So up first we have AC/DC and their three-peat, Powerage, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black. Great run of albums here, starting with Powerage. May not have the critical acclaim as the other two, but to me, this is always where AC/DC really came into their own. I think this is an all-killer, no-filler, pretty much perfect AC/DC album. Not a weak moment on it. Of course, you got Highway to Hell. Unfortunately, their final album with Bon Scott before his untimely passing. Mega hit, like the title track, Highway to Hell. And then, of course, they bounced back with Back in Black, first album with Brian Johnson. And this is not only one of the all-time AC/DC albums, this is one of the all-time genre-defining hard rock albums. So AC/DC, three classics in a row with Powerage, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black. Next one I pulled off my shelf here, we've got Black Sabbath. You have Paranoid, Masters of Reality, and Volume 4. So you probably could have done the debut album through Masters of Reality, or you could have even done Masters of Reality Volume 4, Sabotage, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, really any of them. I guess there isn't really a wrong answer there. These are the three I'm going to go with. I was never the biggest Black Sabbath fan in the world, so for somebody who is a bit of an outsider, this is like the Black Sabbath album that when I think of the band, I think of Paranoid. It's got War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, the songs that any Black Sabbath fan is probably sick to death of hearing. And it's a great album all the way through. It's got some great deeper cuts on the second half. Electric Funeral, Hand of Doom, Jack the Stripper. So you've got some great stuff there. Masters of Reality, probably my personal favorite Black Sabbath album. Songs like Sweet Leaf, After Forever, which may be my favorite Black Sabbath song, Children of the Grave. So some great stuff there. And of course, Volume 4 is no slouch either. So that is my pick for Black Sabbath's three-peat, Paranoid, Masters of Reality, and Volume 4. Next up, we've got a little Aerosmith. We're going to start with Get Your Wings, Toys in the Attic, and Rocks. Three killer albums all in a row. Get Your Wings, massive step up from the debut album. Got classic songs like Same Old Song and Dance and the cover of Train Kept a Rollin'. Of course, Toys in the Attic, Aerosmith's big time hit album with Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion on it. My personal favorite Aerosmith album. And of course, Rocks, maybe the most solid album in the catalog, just top to bottom, all killer, no filler. Not a weak moment anywhere to be found on Rocks. Aerosmith's three-peat right here. Pretty much as good as it gets, in my opinion. Alright, next up I've got the Beatles. And what three album stretch from the Beatles can you pick? Well, I'm sure there's plenty of Beatle fans out there that think any three in a row is worthy of being on a list like this. But for me, I'm going to go with Rubber Soul, Revolver, and Sgt. Pepper. Rubber Soul, personally my favorite Beatles album. I think this one is pretty much just a perfect listen from top to bottom. Revolver, right behind it. I think these are pretty much my top two Beatles albums. They're certainly my my go-to when it comes to the Beatles. And of course, you've got Sgt. Pepper, which is just the ultimate classic Beatles album, often regarded as the best album of all time, an album that really changed the course of how music was recorded and received by the public. So no, really nothing you can say to convey the iconicness of this one here. But I think these three albums in a row is probably the three in a row from the Beatles that I would say is their massive three-peat. So, because after Sgt. Pepper, I mean, you've got the White Album and Abbey Road, but you've got Magic Mystery Tour and Yellow Submarine kind of mixed in there. I wouldn't quite put them in with like the three-peat, but could have gone like White Album, Abbey Road, Let It Be. But for me, I think this is the three that I would choose there. All right, next up I've got Judas Priest and Stained Class, Killing Machine / Hellbent for Leather, British Steel. Three killer records all in a row. You got these two, both released in 1978. Two kick-ass albums to come out in the same year. Stained Class, probably my personal favorite from Priest. Songs like Exciter, White Heat, Red Hot, Better By You, Better Than Me, Stained Class, Invader, Saints in Hell, Beyond the Realms of Death, Hero's End. Killer album here. This one's no slouch either. You got Delivering the Goods. You've got the title tracks, depending on where you're from, Hellbent for Leather and Killing Machine. Taking on the World is one that I've always personally loved. You got the Fleetwood Mac covers, great, Running Wild. So, and then after that, 1980, they come with pretty much their iconic British Steel album. You got their iconic tracks like Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight, mixed in with some great songs like Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Grinder, United, Steeler, The Rage. So my pick for Judas Priest would be Stained Class, Hellbent for Leather, and British Steel. Next up, I've got Kiss, and I was torn. There was two three-peats that I could have gone with here. I could have gone with the first three albums, the debut, Hotter Than Hell, Dressed to Kill, but I decided to go with Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, and Love Gun. This really Kiss at the peak of their career. After finally breaking through with Alive, I think this is really where Kiss could kind of do no wrong. The first three albums kind of had production issues across the board. The first album, very kind of thin sounding, I think a little slow in places. Hotter Than Hell, famously very muddy, very murky. And Dressed to Kill, I think, is probably the best sounding of the three. But with these ones here, you've got the bombastic and epic sounding Destroyer to go along with just the straightforward, hard-rocking, ass-kicking Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, produced by the great Eddie Kramer. So really Kiss at the top of their career, could do no wrong at this point in the mid-70s. So I think for Kiss, I'm going to go with these three as their three-peat. Next up, I've got Metallica, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, Justice for All. Could have gone like Kill 'Em All through Master of Puppets, sure. Even Puppets through the Black Album. But I think these three albums go together. They're very similar in the way that they are sort of put together and set up. They just kind of look like they go together. They sound like they go together. And I think they are all pretty much killer, perfect thrash metal albums. Ride the Lightning, I always thought was an immense step up from Kill 'Em All. Personally, at least, you got classic songs like the title track, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black. Personal favorite of mine, Trapped Under Ice, Creeping Death. Follow that up with the great Master of Puppets. You've got Battery, the title track, Thing That Should Not Be, Sanitarium, Disposable Heroes, Damage Incorporated. And then following the untimely death of the great Cliff Burton, we've got Justice for All. Say what you want about the production end of this one, I think the material is absolutely there. Songs like Blackened and the title track. Eye of the Beholder, I think it's one of the band's most underrated songs. One, Shortest Straw, another one of the band's most underrated songs. Harvester of Sorrow, To Live Is to Die, Dyer's Eve. So, three-peat right there. 3 classics in a row. Next, I got Van Halen. Now, you could chose any 3 of the Roth albums, and I would not have argued with you. But I think as far as the classics go, we're going to go with Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, and Women and Children First. Sure hurts not to include Fair Warning, and I think 1984, of course, is a classic as well. And I love Diver Down. It's probably the least classic of the Roth albums, I guess. But the debut, iconic debut, Van Halen announcing their presence to the world, an album that just really changed the way that I don't know, just it kind of changed the way that the guitar would be approached over the course of the next decade and beyond. Eddie Van Halen comes along and inspires just an entire generation of guitar players. They continue that success with Van Halen 2, and of course Women and Children First, I think, is just an all-killer, no-filler Van Halen album as well. So 3 great, perfect classic albums right there. Alright, next up I've got some vinyl pulled out to share, because these 3 peats I don't have on CD, but I've got them on vinyl. Got a little CCR, Green River, Willie and the Poor Boys, Cosmo's Factory. A lot of the classic CCR songs are across these 3 albums right here. On Green River, we've got the title track, Commotion. My personal favorite CCR song, Bad Moon Rising. Follow that up with Down on the Corner, Came Out of the Sky, Fortunate Son. Some great stuff here on Willie and the Poor Boys. And of course, in my opinion, the band's best album is Cosmo's Factory. Ramble Tamble, I freaking love. Looking Out My Back Door, Up Around the Bend, Who'll Stop the Rain. So some great stuff here. Of course, CCR, I think, other than their last album, they're all pretty good. But as far as a 3-peat here, I think this would be, how can I do this here? It's a lot tougher with vinyl. I think that would be my choice for a 3-peat. Alright, and last but not least here, we've got Rush. We've got 2112, Farewell to Kings, and Hemispheres. We've got kind of the prog trilogy here. They begin their prog sound pretty much with Fly By Night and By Tour and the Snow Dog, and then they really experiment with like the sidelong epics on Caress of Steel. They also had the Necromancer, which was a 10+ minute epic. But I think on 2112 is where they really kind of perfect the progginess. And then the next 2, I think, are just like prog masterpieces to go along with it. You've got the sidelong epic here, 2112. The B-side, solid enough to kind of keep this thing going and to keep this as a classic. Farewell to Kings, personally, is my favorite Rush album. You've got the title track, which I think is one of the most underrated. The great Xanadu. You got Closer to the Heart, which is a classic song. Cinderella Man, of course. Close things off with Cygnus X1. And then pick up Hemispheres with the sidelong epic Cygnus X1 Book 2. And then on the B-side, you've got tracks like Circumstances, The Trees, and La Via Strangiato, which is an amazing instrumental. So kind of the epic prog trilogy of Rush right here, 2112, Farewell to Kings, and Hemispheres. I would call that their 3-peat. So I'm sure there's plenty of examples I missed, plenty of great bands I didn't include on this list. Any that come to your mind, please drop it in the comments below. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and I'll catch you next time.